Left-biased anthropologists, biologists, and academics push the line that all modern humans are the same. They deny human variation and promote an agenda of race as a social construct. These leftist scientists attack anyone who opposes their agenda of one-worldism. They are particularly disdainful of European exceptionalism. But their own data often defies them. Dig deep, you can clearly see how left scientists in league with big media spin the results to fit a globalist agenda. In this video, we will introduce you to some new genetic data that strongly suggests separate and isolated origins for Northern Europeans. As highlighted extensively on this channel, ethnic Europeans have at least 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA admixture. In 2010, Svante Pääbo and his team discovered Neanderthal DNA in the Eurasian genome. In 2022, Pääbo, director of the biogenetics lab at the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig, Germany, received the Nobel Prize for the discovery. Professor Brian Sykes, Oxford University, 2012, quote, "There was considerable interbreeding between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. About 2 to 4% of each individual from Europe is Neanderthal." Archaeologist Frid K. Hansen, PhD, Norwegian University, 2019, quote, "All people outside of Africa have some Neanderthal in their DNA. Most are between 1 and 4%. Professor Vivian Sloan, Tel Aviv University, 2023, quote, "There is still Neanderthal DNA in people living today. Anyone not of sub-Saharan African ancestry carries 1, 2, maybe 3% of their genome coming from Neanderthals," end quote. There are outliers. 5,000-year-old Otzi the Iceman was discovered in the Austrian-Italian Alps in 1991. He tested at 5.5% Neanderthal DNA. Other examples: Kristen Vegerberg, PhD Biology, University of Illinois, tested 4% Neanderthal. Matt, a woodworker from Canada, tested 4 to 8%. James Fallows of the Wall Street Journal at 5%. Chris Stringer of the London Natural History Museum, 2019, quote, "Neanderthal DNA gave advantages such as environmental adaptation and were retained and even accentuated." From a 2011 study, Population Genetics reveals shared ancestries. Harvard David Reich Lab. Priya Morjani, PhD, quote, "We found no African signatures in Northern Europeans," end quote. A similar study was published in 2013. Gene flow from North Africa, genetic diversity in Southern Europe. Lead author was genetics professor Carlos Bustamante of Stanford University. The authors found less than 1% genetic flow from sub-Saharan Africans into Southern Europeans, mainly through genetic flow from North Africa. Study conclusion. Using genome-wide SNP data, we have shown North African DNA decreases in northern latitudes with a sharp decrease between the Iberian Peninsula and France. A groundbreaking study was released in March 2023 from the Max Planck Institute. oldest human genome from southern Spain. The author studied bones from a 23,000-year-old male in surprisingly good condition, uncovered from a cave at Malamuerzo in southern Spain. Professor Gerd Christian Weinecker, Science Daily, March 1st, quote, "In Malamuerzo, we found no evidence of a genetic contribution from North African lineages in Paleolithic Europeans," end quote. Quote, "We found no evidence of a genetic contribution from North African lineages, Paleolithic Europeans," end quote. Archaeologist Vanessa Villalba Moco, Universidad de Madrid, quote, "We thought the first hunter-gatherers went missing from the last ice age. Now the DNA evidence shows otherwise," end quote. Quote, "When the ice sheet retreated, some of these hunter-gatherers colonized Scandinavia from the south 11,700 years ago," end quote. Professor Jan Appel, Stockholm University. Direct genetic link between prehistoric Neanderthals and northern Europeans. Archaeologists have uncovered Neanderthal jewelry and art remarkably similar to that of later northern European cultures. There's even been tantalizing evidence of seafaring excursions by Neanderthals similar to that of latter-day Europeans, including the Vikings. Stefan Milo is an historian, archaeologist, and sea mariner. His YouTube channel regularly gets tens of thousands of views. Stefan, quote, "On the island of Crete, archaeologists have discovered hand tools, hand axes. Only problem, they are dated to 110,000 years ago. At that time, who could have made those tools? It's our old friends, the Neanderthals," end quote. Yahoo News, Neanderthals, Ancient Mariners, 2012. This prehistoric seafaring could shed light on the mental capabilities of these lost relatives of modern humans, researchers say. Continuing, the exceedingly old age of these artifacts suggests the seafarers between 100,000 to 200,000 years ago might have been Neanderthals. New research, Viking genetic condition comes from Neanderthals. Researchers have just released the findings of a year-long study, and the experts are quite surprised by the results. It is called Dupruytren's Contracture, Dupruytren en français, but is commonly known as Vikings infliction or sometimes called Celtic syndrome. Dupruytren's isn't always painful, but does restrict movement. Thickened tissue causes several fingers to curl upward, towards the palm. The condition tends to run in families, more common in men of Northern European descent. From newsmedical.net, June 14th, researchers of Karolinska Institute have used data from over 7,000 individuals to look for genetic risk factors. Up to 30% of men from Northern Europe suffer from Dupruytren's. From phys.org, June 6th, regional differences, archaic gene variants can contribute to characteristics or diseases found in certain populations. Continuing, there are geographical differences in the extent of genetic ancestry linking present-day humans to now extinct groups. Continuing, given these regional differences, archaic gene variants can contribute to characteristics or diseases found primarily in certain populations. The study authors found 61 genome-wide variants associated with Dupruytrens. Further analysis shows that 3 of them are of Neanderthal origin. Professor Zeberg, Department of Neuroscience at Solna, quote, Dupruytrens is rarely seen in individuals of African descent. We wondered whether gene variants from Neanderthals could partly explain why people outside Africa are affected, end quote. The study, Risk Factors for Dupruytren Are Inherited from Neanderthals, was published in Molecular Biology and Evolution, June 14, 2023. Link in the description. From Karolinska Institute, quote, we showed that 3 out of 61 loci harbor alleles of Neanderthal origin. We identify EPDR1 as a causal gene, end quote. From the New York Post, June 13th, research now finds that those Neanderthal genes gave some people an increased risk for Vikings disease, also known as Dupruytren's contracture. Continuing, the study authors concluded that their discovery is further proof that our intermingling with Neanderthals, who share up to 98.5% of our DNA, has important health consequences. Rightist historians, biologists, and anthropologists have been pointing to genetic and morphological ties between prehistoric Europeans and Vikings for years. Vivian Chow, Harvard PhD, 2017. Quote, alt-right proponents have stated correctly that many people of European descent have inherited 1 to 4% of their DNA from Neanderthals, end quote. Quote, alt-right proponents have stated correctly, Europeans have 1 to 4% of their DNA from Neanderthals, end quote. We hope you found the information here helpful. Your feedback is really important to us, so drop us a note in the comments. The best thing you can do to promote Right-Anthro is to pass this video on to others. And please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.